see you all here. It's been a long time. It's been a really, really long time since we've managed to get together, and it's really amazing to have so many people in Barcelona. The weather's definitely turned it on for us today, which is great, although we are in a dark room, so hopefully we can try and make this not too long tonight, and you can go out and enjoy the evening. I'm going to be starting off and just doing a little bit of an intro on some of the practical parts of the summit, and then we can kind of go through onto the talks, and today we're going to have 4 of those. So just beginning things off, and I was sort of thinking back on what happened, and I was sort of remember having a very firm memory of the 2019 Nextflow camp. We had NF camp back then. The branding wasn't so good, but improving this all the time. And sitting there on the Friday on the afternoon and just thinking, it was just the most amazing event. And then sort of thinking back forward after all the things that have happened since that, in that time, it's just been really kind of, I guess, life-changing for many people as well, but also just incredible of what we have achieved as a community, and the impact that I believe that we've all had, and kind of the part we've played in that story. So just some high-level stats. I know Paul is going to go into some more information on Nextflow later on, but I'll just kind of go on to some very kind of high-level pieces here. So in terms of the Nextflow community, in terms of people who read documentation, we've risen from 4,000 to about 12,000 people there. Some of the other key metrics around like academic usage or citations. So the Nextflow paper now has over 1,000 citations, and the NF core one has got 400 there. So you're just seeing continual, I guess, use and referencing of the work that's taking place. Last week, I guess, was a good example of this, but we've been doing a lot of training, and I think this is really starting to show in the community as well. I'm also loving to see that this kind of training is being done by many more people. There's different groups who are doing it, and it's really just bringing people into the community, allowing them to develop their own pipelines, kind of starting off with that phase, and then kind of transitioning through as they become kind of other people of sort of higher members of contribution there as well. And the other kind of thing that's, I guess, really happened is, since then has really been the response to SARS-CoV-2. I was kind of blown away by sort of watching sort of it unfold live and getting calls in from people who were developing Nextflow pipelines, particularly with regards to variants and some of the infrastructure which got set up there by many of the national organizations, and kind of this is kind of translated now to a lot of the things around pathogenic surveillance, and now people are applying a lot of those lessons into these kind of different things, like such, for example, like in food allergens and foodborne diseases, etc. So this kind of like an opening up of this technology has really been really powerful. Another thing that's like, I guess, overlines all of this is the idea of Nextflow going from a project to an ecosystem. And that, I think, is most epitomized by some of the examples of both the people who are here, but also the kind of contributions and where we see Nextflow being used in different ways and by different organizations. So we consider like the sequencing vendors. Now Nextflow can run in many different places. We have a couple of them here as sponsors for this conference as well. And this idea that people are essentially using Nextflow as some sort of de facto standard is a really kind of big positive thing for us as a community as well. Of course, the cloud providers, and we have them as sponsors here today, and we'll see some more of this over the next few days. But the idea that the cloud and genomics is moving to the cloud, and some of the more specialized efforts that's taking place there, particularly with go-to-market efforts, but also with regards to technology, is key as well. We also have a lot of genomics in the cloud companies. It feels like every week there's a new one which is launching there, and as part of that, you start to see that a lot of those are using Nextflow as well, and something we've start to see, and something we support as part of that as well. Obviously, large pharma is a key part of this, part of the ecosystem, and like the kind of move towards personalized medicines by many of those organizations as well. Population genomics, so examples of this is things like Genomics England and then the National Genome Center there in Denmark as well as kit developers. So anywhere you're trying to develop your own pipelines that may be tied to some kind of specific chemistry or sequencing is really driving a lot of this. And then I guess the thing I'm most excited about is just all of these young startups, these biotechs, which are adopting Nextflow who are using the whole ecosystem in itself, from developing of the pipelines to plugins to taking the whole the platforms for running Nextflow. And that's empowering them, and it's allowing them to get so many sort of steps ahead without having to implement a lot of that sort of infrastructure themselves. And I think that over the next few years, as we see this continue to evolve, it's really going to end up with like a big positive impact on the development of the kind of sequencing-based and other technologies there as well. So stepping back then and thinking about who's here today and the people that we have in the audience. So we have about 165 people who have signed up for the in-person event, as well as 433 people who have registered online. It's also been streamed on YouTube, so there's basically essentially anyone could turn up to that. I'm not sure if it's it's going to be like breaking any records or anything, but that's certainly something that is possible here. If we look at the audience, obviously kind of very strongly focused in the bioinformatician space, and bioinformaticians coming from students or research scientists. And I think we really sit at this intersection between having to know enough about the biology to make sense of what we're doing, combined with the software engineering and the infrastructure set up. And I guess really everyone in this room has a kind of a shared interest in both of those things in terms of moving this forward as well. We've also just had the NF Core Hackathon. So there's about 50 people here who took part in that. That was a fantastic event. It was a really, really great kind of turn-up. Unfortunately, we could only have 50 people in the room. I know that there was, we probably could have doubled the size of that. So next time we'll try and look to improve that in terms of the numbers that we can have there. And I guess kind of personally to me, we also have 35 people from Seqera here, and a little bit of background. Seqera itself has been around for a couple of years now. A lot of the people we sort of have never got together, had the chance to meet in person. So for us, it's a really amazing time. I also think it's an awesome opportunity to kind of meet many of the users of Nextflow and really for us to try and understand as a organization as well, like the usage that's taking place there as well. Okay. A few practical things now. Here we have the organizer context. So we have Phil here, who's obviously many of you know, but will be around. We've got Mila, myself, Tere, Chris, Monica, Paolo, Marcel, and Harshil. If you have any other problems, you can always reach us. We'll be able to help you out with practical things as they come about. I'm going to go through some of those practical things now and kind of reference to those. Some of us have t-shirts on which say staff on the back. We won't bring you a drink, but we will definitely be able to try and help you out in some way. Other practical things on the Wi-Fi. So if you look on your phones or your things, you should see that there is a connection called Loom. So just the single Loom like itself. And then there's also a password for that, which is just capital L-O-O-M 33 @ and if you enter that on your phone, you should be able to kind of use that. And this will be kind of important when I mention some of the things that we're going to do for the questions and following along for the speakers as well. Okay, on the policy side, so with regards to COVID, one of the key policies we have is regards to if you have symptoms to not attend the event. We have masks that are recommended when in very close contact with people. There is in this auditorium, there's a very good ventilation system, which is obviously turned up to the max as well. We do have masks and hand sanitizer at the entry, as well as tests that are available on request. And if you do test positive, sort of during the event, it would be requested that we contact one of the organizers so that we can let people know and sort of take care of that as well. With regards to some of the other policies we have, so we have the Code of Conduct, which is available on the NF Core website, also on the Nextflow GitHub. And that mostly states around not ensuring that people are not doing harassment in kind of any way, as well as just some things around when you, for example, taking photos of people that they're kind of aware of that and kind of agreeing to that as well. We have some safety officers. They're set up. If you want to reach out to them, you can contact them on Slack, as well as to hr@seqera.io, as well as contact any of the organizers as well. And finally, we do have professional photographers on site, and they are going around taking images. So if you don't want your image to be used in anything, just please contact us, and we will obviously ensure that they're not published in this way. So with regards to Slack is what we're going to be using for all of the questions, and it also provides a way that we can interact, both people in person, but people online as well, and they can kind of follow this along. This is going to be using the Nextflow Slack, so there's a QR code there if you wish to join that. The whole idea here is that as people are speaking, if you want to ask a speaker a question, you can follow along, type in your question there, and we have some moderators who will be reviewing those questions and asking them on your behalf as well. The other great thing is that it allows you to essentially the speaker to come back and ask a question or answer a question later on as well. This will all be taking place in the Summit 2022 channel. So if you go into the Nextflow Slack, if you get the invite there, you can see that and join there as well. Okay, with regards to the talks, so we would ask that the speakers from the talks would come to the front sometime before your session. This will just allow us to set up and make sure that everything's okay. I believe that we have most of the talks before, but it would just be great to confirm all of that information before we start. All of the questions, as I mentioned before, can be written inside of that Slack channel, and that Slack channel we can then use for the moderation. You can upvote or thumbs up your questions there. So if it's something that you think is important and you would really like to see asked, please feel free to do that. And then ideally, we'll try and keep these to threads. So if you're familiar with Slack, you can use threads to keep the conversation going in one direction. We are quite tight on some of the timing. So I guess the schedule was kind of very difficult to fit everyone in. We definitely wanted to have more people speak and give them more time than was available. So as part of that, we're trying to keep everyone pretty tight with the timings, and the moderators will be standing up and informing that. We also have a fantastic poster turnout, so there's around 20 posters which are available. I believe the majority are outside. If you're in person, you can see these. We also have them available online on the website, as well as available on GatherTown. So this is a service that we're using where you can log into there and view those. The official poster session will be at 3:45 tomorrow. But we do have this during coffee breaks, other times. Feel free to jump into that and talk to people about their posters. Otherwise, you can capture that information there. Every poster has its own Slack channel. So you can see here, this is like, for example, Summit 2022, poster 1. You can go find that, make some questions for people and interact in that way. As I mentioned before, you can do with that on in person or Gather or on Slack as well. Just a quick note on Gather, so people who are following this online, there is a virtual attendance. This is essentially a kind of a room that you go into, you can walk around. There is some things inside there, you can see the posters, you can see the talks, and you can chat with people. And really it's a great way to meet people that kind of goes beyond the experience of just having watching on YouTube by yourself. Other aspects of this is YouTube. So we are streaming all of these talks live on YouTube. Afterwards, we're going to be taking the talks themselves and we will be editing them up, but for now they'll be available, they'll be recorded there, you can find them, and they'll be made available after when we finish here. You can find more details of this at summit.nextflow.io/stream. There's both links to GatherTown and to YouTube there as well. Okay, the Summit dinner. So for those attending in person, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we'll be going to Shoko. There is dinner there, there is drinks there. So everything's kind of set up for us. It's approximately a 30-minute walk, and the final session finishes at 7 p.m. tomorrow. So within that time, it's a kind of a walk down there. It's based on the beach. It's a kind of club/restaurant place. If you've got any questions, I believe we'll likely leave as a group. But if you do get lost, you can find the information there. And all of this information is of course in the program, which is handed out before, and the website as well. I'd like to point out as well on the speaker side. So we have Robert Patro here, who's joining us as our keynote speaker. It was fantastic to get Robert to join us. I know that he had maybe some slight issues in terms of getting his COVID vaccines agreed or found or locked away somewhere. But it was really good to get Robert here, and he will be speaking here about what could be Nextflow. I don't want to go into it too much. I'll save it for him, but we're really sort of excited to have that. And that will be first up tomorrow morning. I'd also really like to thank our sponsors, and there's been some signs up before, but it's been fantastic to see the support that we've got. Many of these sponsors are partners of us at Seqera, but they also are really big supporters of what we do in the Nextflow and the NF Core communities. So as I mentioned before, with the cloud providers of AWS and Google Cloud, Element Bio and Oxford Nanopore on the sequencing side, and Quill for data management there. Each of them will be giving talks as well. And the first one of those will be Booth coming up later on today as well. I'd also like to shout out to CZI. They've been doing a fantastic job of supporting both Nextflow and NF Core over several cycles now. So we have applied for them and won the essential open source software in science, which has been for cycle 2, cycle 4, as well as a diversity and inclusion grant. That's funded many great initiatives in the community, which has been great. They've also been big supporters of open science. And the way that they are doing this, I was recently, a couple of weeks ago, in California at a conference there, specifically on the open science. And it's just incredible to see the things that are being done there in terms of normalizing many of the things that we do every day. So for example, making your pipelines reproducible, the idea you make your code, the ability to run in any environment. All of these things are slowly catching up, and it's with initiatives like CZI that are kind of pushing that forward, which I think is going to be really, I guess, kind of beneficial for science overall. They've also, as I said, mentioned around Nextflow and NF Core funding, which has been significant. So some specific things which is funded from that, we have Nextflow Summit bursaries. So there's 5 people or so who are here who are funded from underrepresented groups or places to come here specifically for this conference and to attend, as well as the mentorship program. The first one of this just finished a couple of weeks ago, and it's been a really great result. So here we pair up mentors with mentees, typically people with some experience in Nextflow, and really people from all around the world have applied in this. The applications for the second round are coming up in November, so if you do wish to apply to that, you can find the information there. There's some great quotes in here, like from the feedback, but here's one I'd read out, which is around the setting up of the NF Core viral recon pipeline for genomic surveillance of SARS-CoV-2 sequencing from Senegal, as well as 17 other countries in West Africa. It's this kind of impact that you would think that it was kind of more around supporting the people in terms of their early careers, but there is kind of real impact directly from these things, and it's kind of great to see, and something that we want to continue to support there. So wrapping up things here, we're going to start off now with one session of talks. So we're going to be starting at 5:30 and we'll be finishing around 7. We've got 4 talks that are coming up here. The first with Robert Petit, who's from Wyoming Public Health, and then we've got Phil Yules talking about NF Core, and Priyanka on the automated production engine to decode the tree of life. Finally, with Brendan. I'm going to finish off here. So this is the final one for Thursday morning. We'll be starting 10 a.m. And we'll have a couple of sessions on the tomorrow morning, followed by tomorrow afternoon, finishing, as I said, around 7 o'clock there, have the summit dinner, and finally on the Friday, is just going to be in the morning, and that's going to be from 10 a.m. and we'll be finished at 1:30, so everyone can get some rest and go home. So really, really excited to have everyone here. As I say, it's been a long time coming. Really, thank you so much for all the effort, for all the people who's come here. I know it's not super easy to do the travel now, and people are being more selective with the travel, which is great. But it just means a lot to us as well that you've taken the time and the effort to do it. And I hope that we can sort of you can get something back from the talks and from the community and the events as we start. I will pass over now to our first speaker, Robert, and then we can kick things off with that. Thank you.